Hi, I'm Kaya.
And I'm Emily.
And we are the directors of Promise, a short film. I'm going to be talking about the initial ideas that we had and how we sort of came about the idea of the short film. We knew we wanted to focus on a romantic drama, however we did want to bring up an issue that our audience could relate to. For example, what we use is cancer, a common illness that everyone's aware of, that everyone can relate to in some way, shape or form.
During research and planning, we found that typical conventions of shorts actually follow realism and everyday life and the struggles. So we obviously chose cancer, and we didn't want to break the conventions of shorts, so we want to keep it real. Now I'm going to talk about how we got the equipment together.
It was a very easy process. We made sure that before every shoot we had planned thoroughly, we knew what equipment we needed and what we needed to take to every shoot. So we'd make actually a shoot plan, not only for the actors but for us as the directors, so we knew what we had. In terms of getting the equipment everywhere, we sort of planned out what shoots we were going to do, and then also what cameras and what angles we were going to be doing it from. So what equipment we were going to need to elevate, what equipment we were going to need to slide, or anything we would need for the angles that we were wanting to film.
So before every shoot, we took home the equipment 3 days before the actual shoot. This was so we made sure that we had the equipment and it wasn't anywhere else. So we could also get used to the equipment and make sure everything was charged and we had spare SD cards. So that just meant that we weren't wasting time for our actors and us ourselves, because obviously time is precious for us. We also planned along with the other team so that we didn't have to transport the equipment between us, and so we weren't wasting their time as well.
So we weren't using it while they were needing it, or while we were needing it. We didn't come to school one day and find out that they'd actually got it.
So taking home the equipment also meant that getting used to the footage, so what it's like using manual focus, and because we're indoor quite a lot, we need to adjust the camera settings in correlation to how much light we have present. So using hard lights and soft lights, you always have to adjust the settings according to that. So obviously we used the indoor setting, but we could also use one push, which obviously made it a bit more vibrant and lighter. And because it's a romance drama, we obviously want to portray that image that is quite light, and the storyline as well, it's not in depth, like the audience doesn't have to focus and think about what's going on. Also used quite a lot of cinematic equipment, so there's like the slider, the jib and the dolly, which obviously is more advanced, so we also had to get used to that as well, and we didn't want to get used to it while we were using it, because obviously that's wasting the actor's time again.
In getting used to the equipment, we tried to focus on making a little short film for ourselves in terms of filming camera angles and learning where angles are to be positioned.
Where to position the camera.
Where to position the camera in terms of how it would be labelled as a certain angle.
Yeah.
So then when this came to filming, we knew what we were filming and exactly how to describe it when it came to evaluation processes, and also we knew exactly who was meant to be in the frame and what wasn't meant to be.
It was more creative. It helped us explore different ideas and how we could introduce it into our short as well.
We also watched a lot of online clips just to get us used to the equipment, because there was a lot of tutorial videos. We watched a lot of the Slanted Lens on YouTube, which helped in terms of us knowing how to approach the equipment and what to press and how to move things.
Such like using wind socks and reflector screens and stuff like that.
Yeah, because we had a real issue with the light. So obviously we had to research quickly on how to reduce this problem, so we used a reflective screen.
Lights and
and we blocked the door,
did
we? Just the archway of the door to really reduce that light in the scene.
Yeah. When we first started using the dolly, we thought it would be quite a difficult process to get used to it, but actually it was quite simple assembling it, and again YouTube clips helped us with this. When we did have a problem with it the first time that we used it, we were doing a establishing shot of the skull, and the camera actually didn't move that much, so when we uploaded the footage on Edius, we used the time effect tool just to increase the speed to make it look like it does move.
I think it was just because it was so far away and we were moving it so slowly, it just appeared like the camera wasn't moving at all, so it didn't really give us the image that we actually wanted to capture. So I think in terms of editing, that was one of the most crucial tools we used in the whole project.
we found that close-up shots were more successful, such as Ellie's makeup.
So next we're going to talk about how we actually work together as directors and how we found working as a pair was in a film process.
So working in a pair meant that we could divide up certain parts equally. So I took on the role of the film poster because I'm more confident working with cameras, whereas Kai's very much into English, so she was able to structure an article effectively. So working in a pair also meant that we could build and develop our ideas, so without getting people's spoken over or getting ignored. We also helped each other out when doing the ancillary tasks, so Kai would come over and be like, oh, I've got an idea, why don't you try it this way? And I'd go over to Kai and be like, why don't you put this shot in, because it resembles this and it's what you're talking about.
When it came to the ancillary tasks, we were very much dependent on each other's ideas.
Yeah.
Because we did want to both have an input on both the tasks rather than just separate the two and, you know, one of us has an equal role and then as soon as it comes to putting it all together, having the thought of, oh, I don't actually like that, I didn't actually want that on my poster. So I think all the way through we were doing the ancillary tasks, we were sort of saying, is this what you wanted? Is this sort of the approach that you take? Is there anything that you'd change? Is there anything you didn't like? And I think that really helped working in a pair, because if you're in a larger group, you know, you'd always have the one person that would not have the same opinion as you.
There was 2 tasks and 2 of us, so it worked out well.
Yeah. The interesting thing was we actually thought that we were going to take longer filming because there was only 2 of us. And in actual fact, it did actually take us less time.
Yeah.
I think this was due to the fact that we both planned it. We both knew what we were doing. We both knew where we had to be at what time. And I think this just really helped with the fluency of the shoots, really, because there wasn't people not showing up and there wasn't people, you know, I don't know, just there wasn't a mixture of needs. You know, we both wanted to be there, we both wanted to shoot, and we both knew what we wanted to achieve. So.
Yeah, we filmed everything downstairs and worked our way upstairs. So it wasn't like we had people everywhere all over the set. It was 2 of us, so it ensured that it was quiet, the set was quiet, and we could just focus on the actors. And it also meant that we could build a relationship with our actors to get to know them. They could get comfortable with us and talking, and they can be like, well, why do you approach it this way? Like, we wanted that response from our actors.
Yeah. The best thing was about working in a pair, and obviously being friends anyway when working in a pair, we did really support each other all the way through the process. You know, at times there was points where we thought there is just so much work to be doing here. Do we need an extra person? But we did get through it, and we did share a lot of the tasks, so it did make it that little bit easier. And it wasn't a case of waiting on someone to finish a presentation and send it over to us. You know, we knew where each other were, we knew what we'd done, and we knew what we hadn't done. So it was very clear on what the next step was. It wasn't ever vague in what we were needing to be doing.
Yeah, and I think it also reflects that we're quite strong media students and we are capable of getting it done. And
the second day was probably the worst day when it came to shooting, because we'd planned the shoot, everything was going smoothly, or so we thought, and then we brought the footage back onto the editing suite and we realised there was no sound on any of the footage. Obviously a devastating moment for when you've done a 6-hour shoot and your actors have put their all into the shoot.
Yeah.
But we managed to overcome it, because as soon as we saw that there was no sound on that footage, we were straight into planning the next shoot.
Yeah, we try not to think negatively about it.
No, we were straight away thinking about how we can do it differently.
Yeah.
And also when it came to looking at the footage again, we saw what we liked, what we didn't like.
Yeah.
And we were able to go back into another shoot and just shoot the footage that we knew was going to work well.
Yeah. And also when it came to the next shoot, we did sound checks, which we did ourselves to ensure that we had sound. We brought a big boom mic with us just in case that we needed it, and it was windy outside if we were going to have time to do the park scene. And also because it took us less time as well to film the next round, which also meant we could incorporate other shots that we didn't originally think about our storyboard, which we then put in the storyboards later on, and it actually just made the film.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the problems that we actually overcame during the editing. We found that when we were going through the chronological order of the film, that there were a few moments that we just made really silly mistakes that we really needed to sort out.
Yeah.
We accidentally filmed Jacob, who plays Sam, and he arrived at Ellie's house wearing a blue shirt, and obviously then we did another shot, not really thinking about it, and he was wearing a green shirt. So when we took this into editing, we had to sort of add more blue tones to his shirt, more blue tones to the shot. It's not noticeable, but we noticed it as directors. We didn't really want to film it again, but we did the best we could in terms of keeping the tones. And
yeah, it helps us get used to edits as well, because
Yeah.
it's quite complicated matching blue hues with green hues, but we did do it.
Yeah.
So when we filmed the park scene, it was a really nice day. We wanted it a really nice day, and we said, "Oh, we'll film on the stairs because we want them to meet each other." And initially we thought it was gonna be a hill, but there wasn't a hill in the park, so we used the stairs. And this is quite a small area to film in, so with all the equipment set up, it was so easy to cross paths with the characters. And we were filming with the 180 degree rule, so we did break that. So when it came to editing, we had to get rid of all the footage that rule was broken in, and then all the long shots and medium shots that show where the actors stood, we had to crop them down into close-up shots to make it appear like there's nothing really else in the background, it's just them speaking, so the audience can only really focus on them.
But it did work out better because we sort of condensed the scene into just a conversation between Sam and Dave, and it wasn't really the scripted conversation was quite emotional, and it sort of brought all the emotions to head, I think. But I think if we'd have done that instead, it might have just been a bit of a drastic change.
Yeah.
A drastic change between the relationship at the
Yeah,
start
yeah.
to now. So yeah, I think it did work out better.
Yeah,
actually.
and with the limited time, you need to show that he's not going to change his mind instantly.
No.
It needs to be a progress.
Yeah. So in this next part, we're going to talk about how we actually got our actors together, how we casted them, and how we chose them for the roles.
Yeah.
So to get the character of Ellie, we had seen a lot of Ellie's work in her trailers from last year, in her productions, and Ellie's performances in the school plays and in her trailers, and we thought she was a really good actress, that she was able to adapt to a lot of different roles, very, very different roles. And so this is something we were looking for in an actor because we felt that our role was quite emotional, quite a strong role that not really anyone could pick up and just read a script to. So we did want to do the audition process, and we did, as anyone normally would in casting a film. But we did have a set few characters that we did zoom in on, that we did think were perfect for the roles. And Ellie was one of them. Ellie was the person that we really did want to play Ellie in the film.
We then matched Jacob to Ellie as well. They're in a relationship, so they already are comfortable with each other, which is great for on camera. So when filming, Ellie did it straight away. She was perfect. You know, she really brought the character alive and changed the script around. She was like, well, actually, I'm going to say this instead because I don't think my character would say this.
Which really helped us because as in charge of the whole project, you know, we had to develop characters and then we had to make a script that would fit them. That isn't usually what happens in a filming process. So I think having an actor telling you how a character would say it is really beneficial, because you know yourself then to go back and re-look through the whole script.
Jacob took more time to adapt to being in front of a camera, but it was good for him to get confident with the cameras. He has been in productions before, but you can see through the production how more confident he's got, as well as his character. I mean, his character has to become more confident to stand up to Dave, and you can really see that through audience feedback. They said that, why don't you try refilming, you know, when we first see Sam?
Yeah.
And we could, if we refilmed that, he would be perfect.
I think it was kind of good though that he had that nervousness at the beginning, because it sort of shows the progression of his character as well. But Jacob was brilliant. Jacob was really good during filming, because he was always asking questions. You know, are you sure my character would say this? Do you want me to try it this way?
How shall
or
I stand?
how shall I stand?
Yeah.
Where shall I be when you're sat in the camera?
Yeah.
You know, he was really good when it came to filming, and
Yeah.
I don't think we could have chosen a better actor.
No, they work really well together. So for the role of Dave, we had 2 people in mind. We didn't really hold auditions for them because it's a hard role to take on.
Yeah.
It's very emotional, very demanding, so we needed someone with time. At first we thought Max Robinson would be perfect for the part, but he's a new dad, so he didn't have the time, and he's also very young looking, so he wouldn't really fit the look for a family, for an older family with a teenager.
Yeah, within popular culture nowadays, I think the conventional
Yeah.
family with a teenage son or daughter, they do look older in the face.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
saying that they're really old, but you know,
40s, mid-40s.
generally you
Yeah.
have a mother or father within the 40s range.
Yeah.
So I think Richard really did bring the role to life that we wanted to portray, because he is within that age bracket.
Yeah.
He does have sort of the facial features
That we were looking for. Yeah.
and he was just a brilliant actor. He'd had experience in acting
He
as
fit
well.
the character.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think all 3 characters were perfect for the demands of their different roles, which was really good.
He wasn't afraid to be like, well, actually, why didn't you film it from this angle? Because obviously he's been in productions before. He knows how directors work. So he was like, actually, I think you should film it from this way, or why don't you do this as a close-up shot rather than a medium shot to empathise what he was saying.
I think often as well, some of our actors actually noticed before we did some of the
Yeah.
silly mistakes before we actually made them.
Yeah.
So Richard would be stood and he said, well, if you're going to be filming from there, I need to be stood over here, and just small stuff like that
Yeah.
they've really helped us with because of their experience in productions as well.